This is a strengthen question, so we want to make the conclusion more likely, and we usually do that by backing up an assumption. Sometimes we'll bring in new information that props up the conclusion on its own. We call those independent grounds. And also if we see a causal argument, we have a stock set of techniques for strengthening causal relationships. But this isn't causal, so we're going to find the conclusion in the premises and see if we can find some assumption. The conclusion is long and it's here in the middle. It's the idea that cognitive psychotherapy is probably more effective than therapies that focus on changing your unconscious beliefs and desires. Cognitive psychotherapy focuses on changing your conscious beliefs and desires, and only those are under your direct control. So where the premises leave off is focusing on the things that are under your direct conscious control. That's the premises tell us that this has that quality. It focuses on things that are directly under your control, and then the conclusion says it's going to be more effective. And so I want to link those two ideas up. I want to say it's more effective to focus on things that are under your direct conscious control. If it's under your direct conscious control, it's easier to change those behaviors, right? Because the whole point of this is to change behaviors. So I want to find an answer choice that backs up that assumption or otherwise makes the conclusion more likely. Let's go ahead and check them out. A says psychological problems are often caused by unconscious beliefs. Now those aren't the ones that are being addressed by cognitive psychotherapy, right? That's all about changing conscious beliefs. And it says these problems are caused by these unconscious beliefs that could be changed with the aid of psychotherapy, but it doesn't say which kind. Our conclusion is comparing one kind of psychotherapy to other types of psychotherapy and saying this one's going to be more effective, but A doesn't really differentiate. It just says these unconscious beliefs can be changed by psychotherapy, but it's not making cognitive psychotherapy sound better or more effective than the others. So I don't like what answer choice A is doing. I don't feel like it's splitting it into fine enough categories. These are all psychotherapies, so which one is better, A doesn't address. B says it's difficult to be effective without focusing on things that are under your direct conscious control. Without is like unless. We translate that to if not. So B is saying if it's not directly under your direct conscious control, then it's difficult to be effective. Or if it doesn't focus on things that are under your direct conscious control. That's talking about these therapies. They focus on your unconscious beliefs, and only your conscious beliefs are under your direct conscious control. The other beliefs aren't. And so what B is essentially saying is that it's going to be difficult for these forms of therapy to be effective. Now it's not a guarantee, or it might also be difficult for this to be effective, but all things being equal, if it's difficult for this stuff to be effective, it makes it more likely that cognitive psychotherapy is more effective. So we're trying to say A is more effective than B, and answer choice B basically says, well, it's hard for B to be effective. That makes it sound like A is probably more effective than B. So it helps. It's not a guarantor, but it definitely helps the argument out. That's why it's the right answer. It strengthens. Let's talk about what's wrong with C, though. So it says cognitive psychotherapy is the only form of psychotherapy that focuses primarily on conscious beliefs. Well, the problem is that's not, we don't need to know that it's the only one, and it doesn't help to know that it's the only one. We know that it does that. We know that cognitive psychotherapy focuses on conscious beliefs, and we're comparing it to therapies that don't. So if there's some other therapy out there that also focuses on conscious beliefs, that's not part of the argument. That's totally irrelevant and out of scope. So do we need to know that this is the only one that focuses on conscious beliefs? No, because we're only comparing it to therapies that focus on unconscious beliefs, that don't focus on conscious beliefs. And so whether there are others out there or not is not relevant. So C is not particularly helpful. That's why it's not, it feels a lot like a necessary answer choice, but you also don't need it. Because it doesn't matter if there are other forms of therapy that focus on conscious beliefs. They're just not a part of the comparison in the conclusion. It's this one that focuses on conscious stuff versus all these other ones that focus on unconscious stuff. So D says no form of therapy that focuses on unconscious beliefs and desires can be effective. If it had just stopped there, it would have been great. You just want it to end there, and then it's the right answer. But it goes on and it says unless it also helps change beliefs that are under direct conscious control. And that might be true of these therapies here. They focus on unconscious beliefs. That's their primary thing that they do. But they might also help change conscious beliefs. We don't know that they don't. And so D starts out so good, and then it kind of gives you this escape hatch where this now it sort of allows this therapy to be effective. It says it's not going to be effective unless it does this other thing, but for all we know, it might do the other thing. That's the problem. So it starts really good, but then it just slides right out from under you at the end. It gives it a little escape hatch, and then it allows these other therapies to be effective. It starts out sounding like they're not going to be effective, but then it gives them a way to be effective at the end. All of a patient's conscious beliefs are under the conscious control. Other states cannot be controlled. Well, I'm not sure. Now we're getting out of scope. Other states cannot be controlled effectively without the aid of psychotherapy. It doesn't tell us which kind, so it doesn't differentiate between cognitive psychotherapy and all the other ones. And so that shouldn't be too tempting. I don't see how that strengthens the idea that cognitive psychotherapy is more effective than the ones that focus on unconscious stuff. B is the one you want to like. It makes it sound like it's very difficult for these other therapies to be effective.